And I don't know if you knew this or if your parents taught you this, but the Catholic Church says the passion that you and I feel in our hearts, in our bodies, and our soul for love, for intimacy, for a joy is at the core of what it means to be human and is at the core of what holiness is we have to get in touch with our passionate desires that we have as human beings. And this was kind of the message that I grew up learning about these passions, particularly the passions and desires we feel in our body, was me and my brother were watching a movie with mom and dad, and a scene comes on the movie. And of course, being, 7 years old, oh no, what am I supposed to do at this point? What am I supposed to do? And what do the parents say? Cover your eyes. Cover your eyes right now. So what do? I cover the eyes. But there's something in my heart that wants to see what is happening. There's something awakening in my heart. But the parents said, no, you cover your eyes. Why, mom and dad? Why should I cover my eyes? Who knows? You're supposed to. Remember? Wait until you're married. That's what the church says. So I'm covering my eyes, and all of a sudden what goes into my mind and in my heart is whatever's happening here, sexuality, the body, is bad, dirty, shameful, and sinful. So what you have to do to be holy and a good Christian is try to repress all of those bodily passions and desires and try to live a spiritual life. The body's over here, spirit and holiness is over here. That is anti-Christian. But this is how I kind of grew up. Wasn't talked a lot about in the home, about the meaning of our bodies and sexuality, or if it was, it went in one ear and shot right out the other. And so I started growing up, started hitting puberty, talking to my guy friends. Hey, so are you going to get a girlfriend? If you get a girlfriend, what are you going to do? Because other guys are doing this. Other people around here, they're messing around with their boyfriend and girlfriend. What about you? How far are you going to go? And I told my friend, well, do you know what the church says? Wait until you're married. That's the law. And if you don't, you're a bad person. And so some of my friends began to start messing around. And I remember when I was a senior year in high school, I made a true commitment to myself and to God. I want to save myself until marriage. I want to be able to give my bride that gift of self, that complete bodily gift of self in love. And I told my girlfriend that. I said, hey, I want to be a virgin. Well, why? Well, I didn't really know why, other than what the church said. But I will say this, we did not dive into the deep end of the pool, but we dipped our toes in the water, so to speak. And in my heart, I knew I didn't know how to love this girl. She didn't know how to love me. But we called it love. But I knew in my heart I wasn't loving her. And I told her one day, I'm using you. And she just started crying. And she was using me. And we know we're not meant to be used. What is using a person? It's treating them as a thing for your own selfishness. What is love? It's not to use another person. It's to become a gift for the good of the other person. We didn't know how to love each other at all. So what happens when you don't know how to love? Well, it becomes a mess and you break up. So we ended up breaking up. But this whole entire time in my life, when I went into college, I was crying out to God, why, oh Lord, did you make us this way? Because it seems like the church and all your laws, Lord, are anti-human. It's burdensome, it's restrictive, it's no fun. And no wonder why everyone wants to leave the church in our world today. So I'm crying out to God, and I'm talking to my fraternity brothers, because I joined a fraternity and start partying it up, but still saving myself till marriage. Everyone's messing around with one another, but no one's really talking about it. And one of my fraternity brothers, I'm just going to say this because it shocked me, was we were all gathered in a big group, and he said to everyone, so, how many people have you slept with? What's your body count, is what the term people usually call. And another fraternity brother, who's not even Christian or religious at all, said, hey, can I rephrase the question? Like, let's be honest with what everyone's doing. And he asked this question, how many people have you treated like a piece of meat? And I was just like, oh my gosh. My friend's not even religious at all. He's like, yeah, let's just be honest. What everyone's doing in the culture of messing around It's just treating people like a piece of meat. And I ended up talking to one of my fraternity brothers about this, and I was like, do you want to be a husband one day and a father? And he's like, yeah. I mean, most people, I would say most of you would say, I'd want to be a mother one day, a good mother. And the men, I want to be a father, a good father. And I'm talking to my fraternity brother, and I'm like, do you want to have a daughter one day? And he's like, heck no. I was like, whoa, what are you talking about? He's like, are you seeing how us guys are treating the girls? No way I'd want my daughter to be treated like that. Shouldn't this be a wake-up call that something is off? If you don't want your daughter to be treated like that, then why are you treating girls like that, who are daughters, who do have fathers? There's something that we all need to discuss here, is how are we called to love? Because all the girls in the culture, if you flip on your social media, ladies, you'll be told a message. If you want to be wanted and loved and desired and pursued, you have to look this way. You have to weigh this much. You have to be this height. You have to have this type of makeup on. And if you don't conform to the standard, you won't be pursued and wanted. If you don't have a particular body, you won't be pursued and loved. But what are the guys doing? They're only drawn, and again, I'm not saying all guys, but what the culture holds out is guys are only drawn to body parts. And once they find better body parts, they'll discard you. And that sucks. Because we're not made for that. We're not meant to be treated as parts. Because then it actually robs us to be captivated by another person who has a personality. But we treat people like we can discard with them. And we know in our bones that is not what God's plan is. What is God's plan? Why did God make us this way as male and female? We have to go back to the beginning. Because in the beginning, God made everything and he said it's good, and you, male and female, they were naked and without shame, are the crown, the most beautiful of all creation. The most beautiful, naked without shame. And he called the two to become one flesh. Marriage, marital love. Why did he do this? Why did he make us male and female? Who is God? God is love. And what is love? A communion of persons. Life-giving love is who God is. That is who God is. God the Father and God the Son are giving to one another from all eternity, and through their communion of love spirates the Holy Spirit. 3 persons, one God. Do you get it? Because I don't. It's a mystery. All right? But God is life-giving love, and he made us male and female. Inscribed in every man's body in this room is a call to become a gift, a sincere gift of self. Inscribed in femininity is a call to receive the gift of love. And through their communion, one flesh, holy matrimony, perhaps 9 months later, they'll give a name to a third person. Yeah, the one flesh union, not what the culture is telling us about what a man and a woman is, but God's plan for man and woman, one flesh union, is the greatest window into the mystery of who God is. So if Satan wants to blind us, distort us, cause us fear and shame, he's going to go right here and he's going to make us so confused about the meaning of our masculinity and femininity. And he's done that. But when I learned that this was the most beautiful, and I'll just say this, ladies, yes, you are more beautiful than guys. I mean, you're the final grand finale, cherry on top. I mean, guys, think about it. If you're at a wedding, right? You're at a wedding, your friend's wedding. No one's looking at the guy who's stiff standing up on the altar. He's the stiff guy. What happens? The music pops on. Everyone rises. Why? To look at the beautiful bride walking down. What happens at the first dance? No one's looking at the dude. He's stiff. He's rugged. The woman, she's the crown. And I remember I knew that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. I began seeing others differently, not as objects to use, but as subjects that deserve honor and love. And I began telling everyone. If I was on a plane, if I was on a train, if I was taking an Uber, I was telling people, do you know how good and special you are? You are great. I didn't do it necessarily like that, but I would try to get the point at that they're good and honored and have a dignity. And so one lady was driving me to the train station because in Pennsylvania, I was going back to get my studies. And the lady said, hey, where are you going? I said, I got to get my studies. What are you studying? I said, I'm getting my master's. I'm studying this teaching called theology of the body. Have you ever heard of that before? She's like, theology of the, No, what is it? And I asked if she had a faith or was religious. She's like, no, I'm agnostic. I don't believe in anything. So I asked her a question. What would this world be like? What would it be like if we looked at one another the way in which we look at a sunset? Because the theology of the body reveals that the human being is the crown of all creation, the most beautiful. What would the world be like? She's like, oh my gosh, the world would be so different. And I told some friends this story at Washington State University. And a year later, my friend came back to me and said, Brendan, that changed my life. What if we look at one another like a sunset, as more beautiful than a sunset? I began telling everyone. He's like, I have a story that I'd like to share with you. I was like, okay, let me hear it. He said, well, you know, I'm getting my studies in law. And me and some of my law students, we headed to the bar after class. We had a couple drinks and it started to get late and dark. So one of the women said, hey Ken, it's late, it's dark. I don't want to walk alone. Could you walk me home? He's like, sure, I'll walk you home. So he walks her home and they get to the doorstep. He says, good night. Hey Ken, yeah? You want to come inside to have some tea with me? Couple drinks, it's late. What is she wanting? But he wanted to have some tea. And so he went inside to have some tea with her. And he's like, Brendan, I remembered what you said to me. What if we looked at one another like a sunset? And so I tried to do that with this girl. And they're literally sitting across having tea, and he's just trying to see this woman for her dignity and beauty. And he's just piercing gaze. And she's like, who is this weirdo? And is taken back by it and says to Ken, what's that gaze all about? It's like you're looking into my soul. What is that all about? And he says to her, what if we look at one another the way in which we look at a sunset? You guys know what happened? She began to cry. She began to cry. And I want to say to all the ladies in this room who know it best, I'm sorry when us guys look at you and don't see you, because you know there's a huge difference when a man looks, just looks, versus when a man sees. It's a huge difference. We're made for love and intimacy. And what I learned from John Paul II, St. John Paul II, he said, Brendan, when you look at a woman with lust, you're not experiencing the fullness of desire. What do I mean? If I look and I stop skin deep at another person and just look at parts, I'm limiting my desire for intimacy. Instead, I'm called to see the whole entire person, their uniqueness, their story, their personality. Because our world trains us to look at the body, but not see the body as someone or somebody. And a great way they do that in our day and age in 2024, I was going to say 2023, is pornography. Maybe you've heard about pornography, maybe you haven't. But pornography is illicit exposure of the naked body all over the place. If you have a phone, it's almost impossible to escape it being bombarded on your screen. And the average age for a person to be exposed to pornography is 9 years old. That's a fourth grader. That's a fourth grader. I got exposed to pornography when I was, I think, 5th grade. And what did everyone do? They were just laughing about it. Oh, here, check this out on the phone, check this out. And everyone's just laughing about it, joking about it. Because we didn't know how to have an authentic conversation about what real love is, what it really means to be a man or a woman. We didn't know that, so we just joked about it. And in my journey, my faith journey, the Lord was telling me, Brendan, do you really want to see these people who are in this pornography industry? Do you want to really see them? Do you want to really see their story and what's happening? And I learned some things that I want to share with you because you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know the truth. And we have been lied to. What's the truth? One person in the pornography industry said this: every person I work with is on drugs. Every person. Because we cannot stand the way we're being treated and being used. She said this: every person I know has had suicidal thoughts or have attempted suicide. Every person has diseases, sexually transmitted diseases. Everyone. And yes, a lot of those online that most people are exposed to are actually fake human beings that these businesses will literally create from artificial intelligence and software engineering, fake people. Why are they doing this? To entice us and get us addicted so we can fund them. That's their whole entire job. The problem of pornography is not the naked body. I want to make that very, very clear, because we're lied that our body is bad, dirty, shape. No. God said it's good, and we need healing there. The problem with pornography is not that it exposes the naked body. It's the manner in which it exposes it. It's the manner in which. John Paul II says pornography doesn't show too much, it shows far too little. How? Because you're not seeing the person. You're not seeing the person. It trains us ultimately for divorce, because it says our sexuality is made for power and pleasure. The church is saying, no. Your sexuality is the power to express love, to unite with another human being that is life-giving love. This is what we need to reclaim. A great movie that depicts this journey that we have to go on and this love that we're made for is the movie Good Will Hunting. It's one of my favorites. Don't watch it. It's pretty vulgar. It's rated R. Don't watch it yet. It's very vulgar. But it has great lessons in it. This 20-year-old guy has a photographic memory in the movie. His name's Will Hunting. He's a genius, wicked smart. This is what his friend says in his Boston accent. My boy's wicked smart. This guy's smart. He is careless. He's the coolest guy, but he's careless. He doesn't care about anyone. And we learn about Will is that he grew up in a foster care home and he was beaten with a wrench by his foster father. He had deep wounds in his life. And he ended up fighting someone, got in trouble, and he had to go to counseling. But he doesn't care. So what does Will do when he's in his first counseling session? He just lights up one of his cigarettes. He's puffing on the cigarette in the room. He goes over to one of Sean's paintings. Sean's the counselor. He walks over to the painting and says, "You draw that?" He's like, "Yeah, I did." And in the painting, it's a guy in a rowboat in the midst of a storm. And Will says to Sean, "That's you, isn't it? Man, you're in a big storm right now. Waves are crashing over you. Your oars are about to snap. You're peeing your pants. You're crying for the harbors. Maybe you had to just get out. Maybe you became a psychologist." He's like, "Yeah, so let me just do my work then." He's like, "Or maybe you married the wrong woman." He's like, "You better shut your mouth." And Will's like, "Ooh, that's it. You married the wrong woman. What, she leave you for another man?" Sean takes off his glasses, grabs Will by the throat and says, "If you ever talk about my wife like that again, I will end you. You got that, Chief? I will end you." And the end of the counseling session was up. And a few days later, Will and Sean are sitting on a bench overlooking a botanical garden on a fall day. And Sean says to Will, this 20-year-old careless kid, "I thought about what you said to me the other day about my painting. Stayed up half the night thinking about it. Something occurred to me, though. I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Haven't thought about you since." You know what occurred to me? He's like, "What?" He's like, "You're a kid. You don't have the faintest idea of what you're talking about." He's like, "Why, thank you very much." He's like, "Let me ask you some questions. If I ask you about women, you'd just probably give me a list of your personal favorites. But you've never woken up next to a woman and felt truly happy. If I asked you about love, you just quote me a sonnet. But you've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable, known someone who could level you with her eyes, feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you. And you wouldn't know what it's like to be her angel, to have that love for her be there forever, through anything, through cancer. You wouldn't know what it's like sleeping, sitting up in a hospital room for 2 months, holding her hand, because the doctors can see in your eyes that the terms visiting hours don't apply to you. You don't know about real loss, because that can only occur when you love something more than you love yourself." He's like, "I doubt you've ever dared to love anybody that much." And Will was frozen. He didn't say anything, because maybe the first time truth pierced his heart. He knew he was made for heroic love, not wimpy, lustful love. He's made for a grand adventure. This is what the church is inviting us to and continues to invite us to. How do we date with intentionality? Because a lot of times in middle school and high school, a lot of times it's hiding behind Snapchat. You like me? You don't like me? You have a crush on me? You don't have a crush on me? I didn't know how to pursue a girl until I was 21 years old. You know what happened? Something crazy happened, let me tell you. When I was 21 years old, I fell in love with this girl. And I met her, and I went up to her and I said, hey, would you like to go out to dinner sometime? Don't ever say that if you're asking someone out on a date, because what do they think it is? Oh, we're friends having dinner. And I'm thinking, no, this is a date, and she likes me. Now I'm fantasizing constantly in my mind, thinking that she likes me. A few months go by, I haven't yet told her how I feel. And I'm just fantasizing in my mind. Oh, she likes me, she likes me. And I finally had to tell her. So the very last day that we were working with one another, we were in the car, and I look over at her and I say, hey, I got to tell you something. She's like, yeah, what's it? What is it? So I tell her, hey, I like you. I have feelings for you. And she looks over at me, oh, Brendan. Oh, what? She says, I want to be a nun. And what do I say to her? No, you're not. No, I didn't say that. That'd be weird. I didn't say that. I said, no. I was just like, oh, wow, that is great. And I'm in the back of my mind, are you kidding me? Later that night, we went out celebrating with all the staff and employees, and we ended up acting like we were dating, and we were holding hands. And I asked her, I was like, hey, what the heck was that for? She said, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't have done that, but I still want to be a nun. And after that, my heart was broken. Of course, any rejection, your heart's going to break. But when you invest so much in fantasy world that she likes me, we're going to get married and all of these things, when reality comes crushing down, it will truly break you. That's why it's so important. We need to protect one another. And I knew dating with intentionality, and dating's not just for fun. Dating is a discernment for marriage. It only ends two ways. It's break up or you get married. There's only two roads. And that's why I typically suggest for middle schoolers and high schoolers, take things slow. What, you're 15, you ready to get married? It's like, no. There's a whole, you could be high school sweethearts. I don't deny those things. But take things slow. Work on your own heart. And you might be thinking, okay, Brendan, I get it. I get what you're saying with pornography and using in love. I know we're made for authentic love. Maybe you're thinking that. But maybe you're like, you know what? I do have a girlfriend or boyfriend. Maybe I am talking to this person. And can we do some stuff? Because I really do love them. We want to do it. She wants to. I want to. I mean, it makes us happy. I mean, can we not just do it? How far is too far? What does the church say? Well, let me tell you a story, because that question, how far is too far, what can I do, is the wrong question. You're in the wrong ball game. Because I think deep down we know what true love is. One day when I was a sophomore in high school, I was dating a freshman in high school. Probably shouldn't have been dating. And I thought I fell in love with this girl. She was my world. I realized I was actually more obsessed with this girl. She was my God to me. What is a God? A God is the thing that you think will satisfy you completely. We make gods out of everything. And so, one day, me and my girlfriend were upstairs. And the parents told us, hey, if you're ever up in the bonus room, you got to leave the door open. You got to leave the door open. Okay. So what do? We decided to close it. And we started messing around, and all of a sudden, the door flings open, the mom comes in, and we jump off one another. And she was like, I was going to say to you guys, I'm headed to the grocery store, but guess what? You're coming to the grocery store with me now. Oh boy, shame. We go off to the grocery store, and I'm thinking in my mind, what if her father finds out about this? And one day I get a text from my girlfriend, hey Brendan, my dad wants to talk to you. He does, really. And so what does my mom do? She drives me, because I'm not 16, so I have to get driven by my mom to go see her father. And I walk in, and he sits me down on the couch with his shotgun. No, I'm kidding. He sits me down on the couch. And And he looks at me. He says, Brendan, I really want to ask that you respect the rules of my household. And he started to cry. No. And he said, Brendan, that's my daughter. That's my baby girl. Now, why was I hiding from the man who loves her the most? Why was I full of shame? Why wouldn't I tell the man who loves her the most everything that we were doing? Because we knew deep down that it was wrong, that it wasn't truly protecting one another and their dignity and upholding it. No, we just wanted good feelings out of the relationship. Instead of sacrificing my desires to lust and selfishness, I was sacrificing her dignity for the sake of my selfishness. We're called, because we all have disordered desires and attractions, we're called by God's grace to purify our desires, the redemption of our desires. We're called to sacrifice those to uphold the dignity of others. And we knew it. How far is too far is the wrong question. The question you need to be asking is this action, is this thought I am having upholding the dignity of this person? Is this act, is this thought a true expression of love? And if we're honest with ourselves, we can discern that pretty easily and pretty quickly. So, you want to get married one day? I know you do. You will be invited to, maybe you don't, and maybe we can talk about that later. But if you want to be married and be a good father and good mother one day, the Lord will invite you to love as he loves. That's what he says to men. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did he love the church? That's how he loved the church. And I know that looks, oh my gosh, I saw this in India. I was on a mission trip and I looked at this image and I had to take a picture because this is the reality. What is it? This is my body given up for you. That's true love. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Free, full, faithful, fruitful. He goes all the way. You might be hearing people in your high school, have you gone all the way with them? Have you gone all the way? Go all the way. What is going all the way? That. I will never leave you nor forsake you. And if we're honest with our hearts, it's what we want. We want someone in the midst of our suffering and pain and joys to say, I love you right there. That is marriage. That is marriage. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Why did mom and dad say, cover your eyes? Why does the church say, wait until marriage to have sex? Because the body is holy and good and beautiful and sacred. And that we're only called to give ourselves away when we know someone who we can trust with our life. A complete trust to where that person has vowed to say, I will never leave you or forsake you. That is marriage. It makes beautiful sense now why the church has all of these guardrails. It's to keep us protected for the joy that we're truly made for, the love we're truly made for. But a lot of our world has given up on it. Love's not real. I've had people tell me that. I don't believe in real love. I've had women say, I don't believe guys can actually love. And what women, because women paid the price for sex before marriage. Am I going to get pregnant? Do I have to use contraceptives? Safe sex? That's what the school is saying. You need safe sex, protective sex, thinking your fertility is a burden and dangerous. When did it become a burden and dangerous? It's a gift. But there were a few women and men who gave up on men. Men just lust and use. And so Margaret Sanger, maybe you heard of her, she started Planned Parenthood. Her and alongside other guys said, okay, fine. Women, we're called to freedom. We're called to freedom and empowerment. So what they say that is, take this birth control pill. What does it do? You'll be like men in the sense that you won't have to worry about pregnancy. And now you can do whatever you want and get all the pleasure that you want. What most people, if you're a woman and you go to we'll just say a typical doctor, they'll say, get on the pill, get on the pill. It could be many, many different reasons. And they do not tell you the truth about the birth control pill and how it actually got brought about. So I want to share with you briefly because you all deserve to know the truth. Margaret Sanger and a couple guys what they did was they took this pill, and the typical one that you find, it's the low-dose progesterone-based pill. And so they wanted to start it out and test it on women. So they went to Boston, and they tested it on women who were psychotics, and they weren't able to consent. Why did they operate on them? Because Margaret Sanger and the group knew that this was poison. Who knows what could happen? And what happened? 3 women died from it. And the dose that doctors give now is just a lower dose of that same poison. Why do I call it poison? Because the World Health Organization calls it a carcinogen. What is a carcinogen? It's a direct cause to cancer. What does the birth control pill do? It increases infertility, breast, liver, cervical cancer, strokes, and blood clots. My teacher in my master's, she yelled at our class saying, if you're on the pill, get off the pill. And she slammed the desk because she said, my daughter's best friend died from a blood clot in her brain. What else does the pill do? The pill is an abortifacient. Most people don't know this. Take the pill, you don't get pregnant. But it has 3 effects on the woman's fertility. And the third effect that it has, because it's not 100% effective to prevent pregnancy, it's 99% effective, maybe even a little lower than that. So a woman could ovulate, produce eggs, and if the sperm attached to that egg, what is it now? A unique human being. And the third thing the birth control pill does is the embryo travels to begin nourishment, to grow, but what the birth control pill does is that nourishment to feed the baby, it decreases. And so that baby falls out, flushes out, and dies. And most women do not know this at all. Well, Brendan, I've heard about the birth control pill. I know friends who are on it. They don't want to be having sex and sleeping around. But they have osteoporosis, a bone disease that makes bones weak. I have a friend who has severe bleeding or severe cramping. What about them? Well, again, what most people don't know is their modern day medicine actually has almost 100% rate at curing women's fertility problems. It's not 100%, but almost. And it's called naprotechnology. It's a method for women's health, and most people don't know about this. I had a friend who went to a doctor. She got diagnosed with osteoporosis. And the doctor said, I'm sorry, you got to take the pill. It's your only solution. And she said, I refuse to believe that. She went and saw a naprotechnology doctor. They found the root cause of this problem, and she was completely cured of it. And I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to pull out the website in case you want to take a picture for either yourself or friends or people that you know. I am not bringing all of this up. I am not bringing all of this up to give you fear, to give you shame, because maybe you've been exposed to pornography. Where do we go from here? The number one thing, if you feel confused, if you have fear or struggle, is to make an amazing confession. I didn't make a phenomenal confession until I was a senior in high school, because I would go to confession and I would say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, I have been impure. What do you mean you've been impure? What does that mean? I didn't want to tell the priest what I actually did because I was shamed and scared. Until I was 17 years old and I told the priest everything. And he was wearing glasses and he took off his glasses. And I'm like, yes, Father. And I am loved in my brokenness. I am loved in my mess. And there was deep freedom after that confession, because I was harboring so many things that I was like, I can't tell anyone. And that gets isolating. Make a phenomenal confession, particularly in this time in Lent. I invite you to do that. One of the biggest things that helped me in my journey, because there was a man that I wanted to be and I knew I wasn't there, is we need good friends. Who are the people that you could maybe open up to? Whether it's a family member you trust, who you can begin discussing maybe struggles that you have in your own life, but also people who can help you become the man, the woman that you want to be. Maybe you feel lost. Maybe you have a struggle. Maybe you've been exposed to something you shouldn't have been exposed to. It's not your fault. You didn't choose to grow up in this culture. It's not your fault. You are loved right where you are. It's often hard to hear that you're enough right where you are. Our sin doesn't define us. The church needs you to fight in a world that doesn't believe in love, to fight for love, to show them, no, it's real. We're made for it, and it's worth fighting for. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.